On the God Rock Show, we're hanging out with Ryan Ellis. Good to have you on the show. You were discovered as a worship leader. What led you to that point in your life, leading worship? What happened before that part?
Well, I was fresh out the Navy. I did 5 years in the Navy, and I actually got saved when I was in the Navy. Received, the gospel, and said, I got to get my life together, And then after I got out, didn't really have a lot going on. I played guitar and sang pretty much my whole life, and it wasn't actually till I got saved that I actually started writing my own songs. I think it was just finally had something I really wanted to sing about, and so I started leading worship in these little coffee shops around California, and that's kind of how I got my start.
What was life like before you found Jesus?
It was pretty crazy, man. I try to think about it, and it's hard to even really imagine like what I was thinking, It was just kind of aimless, just hoping for the best, and trying to make the best decisions that I could on my own, but it was definitely chaotic, It was kind of crazy.
You've got this amazing skill and ability. When did you learn that you could write songs?
My mother's very musical, she's an amazing singer. I come from a Filipino background, so it's like Filipinos are very musical in itself. So I grew up doing music. My mother did music. I grew up playing guitar, singing, but writing songs, again, it wasn't until I found Jesus and was walking in faith that I felt like, these are songs that I want to write about.
Yeah. And you've written with some big names as well, haven't you? You were writing for Natalie, for Redman. How did that come about?
That's just God opening up doors, in people. And, the first cut I ever got, was with Chris Tomlin, Resurrection Power. That was a total God story. That song was heard in Hawaii, and one of Chris Tomlin's people heard it, and it was just a total God thing. Couldn't have made that happen even if I wanted to try. So just God opened the doors for that to happen.
How does spending some time in the Navy, 5 years is a long chunk of your life, impact the songs that you write today?
I think, honestly, just being in the military, being around so many different walks of life, being around so many different types of people, but then also having to, you create a brotherhood with these guys, people that you never thought that you would ever be friends with. I think that really influenced me in my Christian walk, and even how I approach songs of like, how's the common man gonna receive this, Sometimes, I think we use such heavy spiritual language that it might isolate some people. So a lot of my songwriting has to do with kind of my own conversations, trying to bring the common person into that conversation.
Are you almost imagining guys that you used to hang out with when you're writing songs? Like, do they come into your head?
Yeah, totally. I imagine, my boys or just regular people, people like even myself, like how would I have received this well back in the day,
All of a sudden, your songs are starting to impact people. What's that like, getting messages back saying, hey, this changed my life, or all of a sudden, this song's really impacted me? Is that an interesting moment?
It's definitely humbling, It's like, you get the messages. I try to respond to as many as I can. I try to respond to all of them. But it's sobering, like especially on days where I feel like, man, is this, what am I doing? Or like, is this worth it? Just like in any profession, I think those are good reminders to look at and see and be like, okay, yeah, this is actually, even if it's just the one person, So
when did that become really evident to you? So what was the moment when, okay, this is what I'm going to do from now on? When writing these songs and changing hearts and impacting lives, when did that become really obvious to you?
Well, I think it was not even writing songs. It was more like, I was leading worship in these coffee shops, and my main goal was just to create an atmosphere, a place that people could really encounter God, and have a conversation that they might not be able to have like in a normal church setting. So this was like a more extended time of worship. And for me, that really felt like, that was natural for me, just to create atmospheres, not a lot of production, not a lot of real thought into it. It was like, let's just show up with a guitar, a couple other people, and we're just gonna sing some songs and just see what happens. And that was the moment where I was like, this is the only thing that really matters, getting people in front of God and it was also ministering to me as well. So that was always the goal, and that's still the goal. It's like just to get people into the presence of God and get that conversation going.
How do you present Jesus to people when you meet them in the street these days, or people watching that haven't experienced God before? How do you present him to them?
Kind of just like this. I just put my hand on them, give them a squeeze, you know, and just smile and just ask them how they're doing. And you know, I used to do a lot of street evangelism when I was younger. But as I grew up, I found that people just want to feel known, you know, they just want to be talked to and they just want to be heard. And so I try to make sure that when I'm with somebody, just try to be present and wait for the opportunity and allow the Holy Spirit to really just guide the conversation instead of just like, do you know Jesus Christ? You know, it's just like, hey man, how you doing? You know, what's going on? And you know, it doesn't happen maybe right at that moment, but you know, maybe consistently doing that and just loving these people where they're at, you know, it starts that conversation. So,
is there a low point that you sometimes refer back to in your heart where you go, I'm really thankful I'm not there anymore? Is there a part or a time in your life where you go, wow, you know, that has been removed from my life and I'm so grateful because of that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a big testimony is God restoring my whole family. My mom and my dad were divorced when I was 3 years old and grew up without a father. And now, I mean, that was really sad and it was really hard growing up, you know, not having that. But now, you know, my dad lives right down the street. My mom and my dad both come to my worship nights, you know, and we all hang out. You know, they're remarried and everything, but family get-togethers, birthday parties for the kids, they're there, they're happy, there's no tension. It just, I don't know, it's just a beautiful thing to see and to see God really work through all of that, you know. Yeah. It's been such a testimony. Would
you give some encouragement to people watching at home that may be feeling a bit down or just a bit lost at the moment? What would you say to them?
I would say that tomorrow's a new day, you know. His mercies are new every morning. But that doesn't have to start even, you know, the next morning. It can just be a change of thought of just knowing, you know, God is for you and that, you know, everything really is going to be all right. You know, that, you know, sometimes our situations and our circumstances might seem way bigger than they really are, but you just take a moment to really sit down, get some time with God, really hear what he has to say. That it really just brings a lot of peace and rest.
Ryan Ellis on the God Rock Show.